Yes, I've got heartaches by the number, a love that I can't win. But the day that I stop counting, that's the day my world will end. Heartache number one was when you left me.
My manager ripped the headphones out of my ears as I was trying to find some peace and tranquility in the locker room after my match that I had won. He, my manager, told me that he was so proud of me. I made him bleed pretty good tonight, huh? I said to my manager. He agreed with a huge grin on his face and told me that I should get cleaned up so we can get on the bus and hit the road. You know, I was thinking about seeing Tim before we head out. We have a whole week before we have to be in Knoxville, I told my manager. Tim was my opponent tonight. I cut him open a few times and he bled all over the mat. The paramedics ended up taking him to Metro Hospital. My manager wasn't all too thrilled about me seeing my opponent immediately post-match, but I felt it would be right. I wouldn't say I am a well-known boxer, nor am I really as wealthy as others. Perhaps I should put boxing down and maybe try to invent some kind of new age home grill. For the time being, I am paying my dues, asking questions, and I'm on the road more than I would like to be. Therefore, I would like to have a respectable reputation as I burn through these next few matches and my future matches to come. I hope they let me see Tim tonight, just to make good between me and him. My request is granted, and after an hour in the locker room at the Convo, me and my manager set off to Metro to see Tim. Unfortunately, when I got to the hospital, Tim's manager, along with some of his team promoters, saw us in the lobby and denied that we accessed Tim's hospital bed. I wasn't there to argue. Perhaps this really wasn't the time to see Tim. Out of one last semi-desperate attempt, I said to his manager as he paced off that I will be here for a little while tonight if Tim allows me to see him. I didn't hear a response. My manager said to me, "Really? Let's not stay here too long. You're going to cause another fight, and everyone in here in the lobby is going to have a front row view." I said to my manager, "We are already here. Let's just give it about 20 minutes. See if they change their mind," I said hopelessly. As I sat down waiting for a little over 5 minutes, I decided to head to the restroom. That water must have gone right through me. As I washed my hands, a really stupid thought came over me. I thought that maybe I'd walk around the hospital to see if I can figure out where Tim's hospital bed is. Maybe ask a passing nurse if they could lead me to Tim's room, hoping they didn't get to hear the bellowing denial of Tim's manager in the lobby. I was all for this dumb idea, and I followed through with it. I made my way up a few stories in this hospital. By now, my manager was probably starting to wonder when I was coming out of the restroom. Maybe he shouldn't have been peering outside the window for so long, or else he would have seen me beeline it to the hospital hallways. Finally, a passing nurse said hello to me as I was pacing the hallways. "Oh, hello. May you please show me where Tim Whitman is? He's a boxer that was brought in with lacerations on his forehead and jaw." She said she was unwilling to show me where he is at, as she was told to deny me access should I ask. "Wow, word must have gotten out fast," I said to her. She said, "What's up with you boxers anyways? There are already 2 here, not counting you. One is here for life, whereas Tim, well, who knows yet? And you, I imagine I'll see you cut open in a few weeks from now." She said jokingly, yet I did get her point. "Wait, so there's another boxer here? And you said for life?" I asked the nurse. She said, "Yes, he's not in great shape, but was brought in after the accident a long time ago. His name is Ken Patterson." "Ken Patterson?" I asked with enthusiasm. "No, you mean the boxer that used to box in the 90s? Surely he can't be here." "Surely you're wrong," the nurse said to me. She said that he hasn't had a visitor in several months, and maybe I'd like to go pay a visit. "Yes, please," I said to the nurse. I was, however, a bit skeptical if this was truly the Ken Patterson I would watch on TV as a kid. We approached the hospital room of supposedly Ken Patterson. The nurse opens the door for me, and I take a few careful steps inside. The nurse calls out to Ken Patterson, who is reclined in his bed with a giant frame poster behind him on the wall of him in his healthy years wearing boxing gloves. This is him, I said to myself. Admittedly, the sight of Ken Patterson was disheartening. He was so frail-looking, skinny in the face and neck. The skin on his legs looked so pale and delicate, like it would scrape off by simply brushing past them and would reveal his fragile bones. The rest of his body was covered up in the hospital blanket. He had to speak through one of those microphones which rested near a table within arm's reach of him. The hole in his throat in which he would hold the microphone to was like looking into a pit in which his soul rests at the bottom. I was lost for words, but the nurse said, "Mr. Patterson, you have a visitor that would like to speak with you." I felt it was rude of me to expect him to speak, so I instead opted to not ask questions, but to tell him that I would always watch him as a kid, as he inspired me to box. All was silent for a moment. He reached over the table that lay near and picked up his microphone. Then he turned towards me with cold, dead eyes and said,
"How much do you know about Chance?"
"How much do I know about..."
"About Chance. Whenever we left the primordial soup, that was out of chance. We would evolve enough to break the surface and walk about land. As billions of years passed, everything fell into place for creatures, for mammals to roam the earth. And it was by chance that, bang, something would collide with Earth and wipe out a species. It was by chance that everything evolved enough to make way for the human race. Now when we look at chance, we chalk it up for the most minute things. What are the chances someone would run into someone else that they saw on TV? What are the chances you'd see the same person you saw on the other side of the country walk right by you on the street of Manhattan? Some of us may not like the idea of everything being left up for chance, yet it is the most proven compared to the Almighty. Let me pose a scenario for you. A man waiting for a train accidentally drops a glove and doesn't notice until he steps on the train and sits where he now sees he dropped the glove. Only the train starts pulling away. Instead of keeping one glove, he slides the window open just enough so he can drop the other glove.
"What are you telling me, Ken Patterson?"
And just in case someone by chance is in need of warm gloves, they could have both.
"Mr. Patterson, I don't..."
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
I didn't understand what Ken was trying to tell me with his story about chance and gloves, but I truly felt as though he wanted me out of his room. I guess it's true when they say you shouldn't meet your favorite childhood celebrities. We left the hospital without seeing Tim. My manager was pissed off at me for being gone for so long, though he never notified any nurses where I may have been, probably for the sake of not looking any more foolish. He didn't believe my story about me talking to Ken Patterson. I didn't try to force him to believe me either. I just dropped the whole thing. Forget about my intentions to make good. After all, it was truly just for my own self, my own reputation. A few long days and nights had passed. We made it to Knoxville 3 days ago, and I was staying at a cheap hotel. And like I said, they don't pay me much as I am an up-and-coming boxer. but luckily, this hotel has a nice little gym I've been going to so I can blow off some steam. I would return to my hotel room at around 10 o'clock at night to stick with a schedule. The cheap hotel looked kinda creepy at night from the outside. Honestly, it was all just a Northanger Abbey type of deal. Outside ominous, interior just fine. Nothing lurked in the shadowy corners. No sinister ghosts at the end of the hall. No murderous pool of blood lay in the bathtub. Just a cheap hotel room with little bits of sawdust accumulating in the corners. Lifeless room with a standard TV dresser, nightstand, and bed. I start cutting up some slices of my blood orange. I have some yogurt and oats to go along with it. This is usually my go-to night meal when I am on the road. It's better than last year's diet of tuna and raw potatoes. As I start eating the blood orange, I accidentally bit my tongue. Very hard, I might add. I rush into the hotel bathroom to spit out some of the blood into the sink and assess the damage to my tongue. It felt as though I nearly bit off my tongue. The low acidity of the blood orange mixing with my exposed sore still seemed to sting as if I was pressing sewing needles into my tongue. I spit out the piece of the soft blood orange along with my own blood all mixed together. Ugh. I never bit my tongue like this before. I rinse away the juicy red mixture down the sink drain, and I swish some water in my mouth. My own blood is still protruding from my sore, but all was fine. No piece of my tongue fell out, thankfully. It was just a nasty bite. I go to sleep just fine, and I wake up the next morning with 2 more days remaining until I have my next match. The day was another slow one, with me chewing my food on my left side of my mouth to try to avoid my sore. As nighttime approached, I went into the gym for my typical self-gym session. I did some laps on the treadmill for about 30 minutes. I burned a good 582 calories. I was drenched in sweat. I benched a couple sets, and then I went to the pectoral fly machine. This seat was facing one of the windowed doors that led into the small hotel lobby. The lobby was all dark. Well, that's weird, I thought to myself. I thought this place would have somebody at the front desk throughout the night. The gym was, of course, well lit. Therefore, I couldn't see a single thing inside the already darkened lobby. No slight illumination of the lobby desk, or anything. As I slowly did my reps on the machine, an obscured face emerged ever so slowly from the darkness inside the lobby. I felt my nerves rattle down to the pit of my stomach. My hair stood up, but I didn't immediately get up to confront this individual. I just sat there, motionless. This person didn't seem natural. Everything about this face seemed off. Was this an adult? It had to be, as the face was at 6 feet high from the ground. But the face didn't look like an adult. It looked too soft. I've never experienced this type of stillness in my body. Never. The moment I finally gathered my quivering body to stand up and determine what this person wanted, the face started to fade away. This figure didn't walk away. It was as if it was being erased from existence, never to return. Am I seeing things? Am I losing it? I've had enough sleep. I've stayed healthy, at least as much as I could. But what I saw was real. I really saw it. I'm not sure if it actually existed, but I truly witnessed something. I quickly gathered my water bottle and wallet with my hotel key card inside and determined I had enough of a workout for tonight. The heavy door in this cheap hotel didn't close properly, and it quickly slammed into the back of my shoes and butt. I, rather in a state of mind of fear, made my way back to my hotel room and slung the deadbolt just in case. The day of my match finally arrived. I showed up at the arena, ready to go, well-rested, well-fed hours prior. As for my opponent, I got the word that he has yet to show up. Well, if it's a no-show, I said to my manager, this will be a pretty easy week. My manager told me to stay loose and hang tight. So, whatever that meant. As I am waiting to get in the ring in about 20 minutes, a woman about my age, mid-20s, approached me. She had long blonde wavy hair, blue eyes, and dressed not for a boxing match, as she was in a loose white dress. She was gorgeous, and I was a bit more attentive towards her, for she wasn't a skimpy clothes-wearing ring girl. She was much more elegant. She had this peaceful demeanor about her. Hard to really explain, but what she told me had contrasted with how beautiful she looked and felt. She told me that my opponent had died in a traffic collision 20 minutes ago. He was on his way to the arena, and out of all the drivers, a drunk driver had struck and killed him. And only him. He was in the backseat of a limousine. Oh my God. What are the chances? I said out loud as I shied away from the woman and looked down towards the ground. My manager and trainer crowded her, and my manager looked at me and repeated what the woman had said, and mentioned that we will soon have to leave if we wanted to get back home if we plan to have a long restful week. Jeez. I looked up at my manager with a sigh. Then I immediately looked towards the gorgeous woman that seemed to have already covered 20 yards down the arena hallway. She stopped at the frame of a double door, pushed one door open, and stood there, talking to somebody with her arms above her head, her right arm holding open the door, and her left arm holding onto the middle doorframe post. Me, my manager, and my trainer got back on our tour bus, and we left the arena with the thought of the ring just sitting in my mind. The detail of the particular arena was nowhere to be found in my mind, but the thought of the lonely ring remained. This life of being a boxer, I'm sick of it. I picked up these boxing gloves with the intention of being a unique individual with my own skill sets, proving myself each week. But it was on that 20-minute bus ride that I determined my previous years of work would have to be left behind. I slowly opened up the window of the bus, and I tossed my boxing gloves to the cold February night road, where only the bright red taillights of the bus illuminated my last image of the orange boxing gloves bouncing along the tarmac. And that was it. I sat on the same recliner I had sat on for those long road trips, with a heavy weight lifting off of me, ascending into orbit. And then we arrived back at the cheap hotel. As I got off the bus, and before making my way into my own hotel room, I walked with my manager to his hotel room to tell him that I'm voiding my contract. I'm done. This life isn't for me. My manager didn't take it very well, but he knew when I said something, I would do it. After a few hours of talking and him trying to convince me to stick with boxing, he eventually gave up. But he respected my decision. He was always more into his job than I was of mine. Finally, I made it clear to him that I was done with boxing. 20 minutes after leaving my manager's hotel room, I put my gym shoes on and I went back into the little gym to de-stress. As I walked into the gym, I saw someone familiar from earlier. It was the gorgeous woman from the arena that gave me the unfortunate news about my opponent. She was doing calisthenics, her arms quickly stretching over her head and back down as she completed numerous and graceful jumping jacks. She seemed to form a delicate wingspan as her arms moved up and down as if to lift her and this room from the ground. I waved at her as I approached the treadmill, and she smiled back at me. I felt calm and concluded when she noticed me. I stretched for a bit, thinking in my mind that she must be part of a boxing management group that is staying here too. But what are the chances she would be staying in this cheap hotel? I'd expect her to be staying in a Marriott or a Hampton, perhaps. I try to pay it no mind, as I don't want to disrupt her in the middle of her workout, but the thought of talking to her after our workout was a possibility, and I ascended into happiness at that thought. As I am running my laps on this treadmill in this cheap hotel gym room, I get about 20 minutes in and I start to feel pain in the left side of my chest, near my heart. The pain gets sharper and sharper to the point where I couldn't bear the thought of not clenching my chest. Am I having a heart attack? No, this can't be. My legs buckle and I slam down on the 15-mile-per-hour treadmill. My body is thrown off the moving treadmill and I start to kick my feet on the ground in an attempt to stand up and get help. But then all goes quiet as I feel a moment of surrender and clarity come over me that everything will be all right. I am calm. I feel fine. No sharp pain is felt anymore. I look up towards my forehead, and the blonde, gorgeous woman is looking over me. She slowly rests her soft hands along my jaw, with her delicate thumbs ever so softly pressing down on my cheekbones. She whispers that all will be fine, and I should let myself ascend. She slowly bends towards my forehead and kisses me. The sea of white concludes my thoughts, and I was lifted in what felt like tiny particles, with no chance of return.